What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? John here with you. It's even a Sunday morning, about 2 a.m. I just got back from WRIF Fest 2024 at Pine Knob Music Theater. So the ears are ringing a little bit, but the voice and everything else in good shape. Got the cough drop just in case. Shouldn't have any problems with the Tuesday side when the Tigers will get underway in the wild card. Still figuring out whether they're going to play Houston or going to play the Baltimore Orioles. And when we get to that, I'm going to be happy to do so. But let's get to the picks. So 2 straight weeks of weeks 2 and 3 have been 6 and 9. That puts me now at 22 and 22 on the season. Double deuces all the way across the board. And again, any more of those, these picks will continue to stink. So again, I kind of walked into it in week 2 and week 3, and I said I think it could be above 500, maybe a game at most. I didn't feel too bad about it, but now it's time to get back and bounce back and get some better picks. I think we can do that this week. We got some interesting matchups, and I'll give you a little bit of a concert review and then let you know everything else throughout the week because there's been some good stuff. It's been a pretty busy week. So Atlanta and New Orleans, and then New Orleans going on the road to play against the Falcons. And this spread has moved considerably. So from my Monday lines, again, that's where I start with these numbers. It was 1.5 for New Orleans getting points. Now it's 3 points in favor of Atlanta. And I'm looking at right now for NFL RotoWire. And again, this is in the eve, so the spread's probably the best I'm going to get. We'll see how much it moves in the morning before you'd have to submit it before NFL kickoff if you're in one of those leagues. Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and Wilson, wide receiver, all listed as questionable. New Orleans, they've had a really tough start to the year. As far as their schedule, they're 2-1. The Atlanta Falcons, same thing. You go from the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs already, and they probably have their health with them. Atlanta, I think they've hung around. They've played well in the games, even that they lost. I'm going to take Atlanta at home, and considering that line has moved in favor, I'm just going to go ahead and take instead of the 3. I'm only stuck with 1.5. So give me the Falcons. Give me the Dirty Birds. Pittsburgh and Indianapolis. Pittsburgh only having to cover 2.5. I needed the road. Now, this might tell you that this game would be a little bit of a toss up considering what that line is. I think that's what the current line is right now. But Steelers, whether or not they score points, again, they only have 51 through 3 games, but they only get up 26. They get the league's best defense in all of football. Give me the Steelers. They only have to cover a field goal. So this is where you need to, if you're going to do something on the pot or get off, that expression. I'm going to have to start to use that for a couple of these teams. And again, it'll be the team just after the one I mentioned. But let's just go to this now about Houston and Jacksonville. 6.5. Jacksonville gets them, and they got lambasted by the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football in Buffalo last week. 6.5 is a lot of points, though. Houston, they're a good offense, but I think it's time that Jacksonville gets close enough to cover a spread. I'm looking at the 6.5, and I think it's too much. Let me see if it's moved on the RotoWire side as well. I'm going to scroll down here. So it sits at 5.5 right now for Houston. So line hasn't moved all that much. Maybe Joe Mixon is questionable. Maybe Gabe Davis is questionable on the Jags side. But they're 0-3. We've already talked about a must-win in Week 3. This is Week 4. If you don't get this now, it's going to be hard to go ahead and pick Jacksonville the rest of the way. I'm going to take them, though, 6.5 points. Green Bay and Minnesota. This is where it gets a little interesting because how hot is the Minnesota Vikings going to continue to stay? 3-0 on the season, 85 points through 3 games. They've only given up 30. Again, you still have Malik Willis, I believe, for the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love listed as questionable. If that's the case, that it still rolls. I know you have to kind of ride it till the wheels fall off, correct? I'm going to go ahead and go with the Vikings. I'm also getting points at 2.5. I'd have to be an idiot to not really take that one. Right now, the spread is Green Bay 3. So, again, I may be missing a point, point and a half kind of deal, but I still think Minnesota until something happens otherwise. I'm going to take it. Now, this is where I use that previous expression, and this is where I have to follow it really to the utmost respect because this is the last time I'm going to pick this team if they don't get it going. Last week I did not pick them on Monday Night Football. It was a 10.5 point spread that Washington was able to get against the Bengals. And now the Bengals are still favored despite being 0-3. Carolina got a big win last week, and now they're only having to cover 4.5 because Andy Dalton, the redheaded rifle, is back under center. Again, Bryce Young I'm not going to say his job is done completely, but they're going to go ahead and try to see what they can do there while they continue to mentor Bryce Young. Hopefully, it gets better down the road. But right now, it seems to be Andy Dalton's team. Now, for the Bengals, 4.5 points again. If you don't show me something here after starting 0-3, there's no really way to pick the Bengals unless you're starting to get 8 or 9 points. This is the last chance for them. Favored on the road, Carolina. I know they showed out well last week. So I'm going to take Cincinnati despite being 0-3, having to cover 4.5. I know it sounds like a fool's errand, but this really is their last chance for me. They got to figure it out. Chicago and the LA Rams. This is interesting because I'm not really sure why the spread is where it is, but this is what we'll have to talk about. For the Rams, the Bears are favored by 3.5. The Rams are getting points as they head to Soldier Field. Rams did a pretty good job against the 49ers in the comeback last week, and now they're still getting points. I'm taking the Rams. I'm taking the points, and I'm not going to think too hard about it. The Jets will stay at home in the Meadowlands as they welcome Denver 7.5. I know that the Jets really haven't been blowing out the barn doors for anybody else right now, but I think if you're going to go ahead and get one of those big wins, Denver's got to be the team to do it. You still got Bo Nix under center. Not saying they're a horrible team, considering, because, I mean, when you think about the Seahawks and the Broncos, that was a little bit closer probably than you would have expected, and maybe the Jets just hover over that number at 7.5. Maybe the Broncos cover it, but right now, I'm just going to take Aaron Rodgers. They say it could be half precip rain, nothing too serious. But I would take Aaron Rodgers in that situation with 7.5. I know it sounds like a lot, but give me the Jets. Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay at home, getting 2.5 points. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles. They were able to do some things over the last week. Let me make sure that I click on them and make sure I don't fall all over my words, as there was a 15-12 game against the Saints, who were previously undefeated. Tampa, they have maybe some of their own issues, and we'll see if that line and everything else continues to hold. It's only 2.5. I think the Eagles can cover a field goal. They did it against the Saints on the road last week. I think they can definitely do that against Tampa, so I'm going to take the Eagles. Arizona and Washington. Washington getting 3.5 points at home against the Cardinals. Cardinals have been able to put up a lot of points, and Washington got that win over the Bengals, but I do think Arizona is a little bit better of a football team. I'm tempted to go with Washington considering what happened on the Monday Night Football game, but I think they played one of their best games. I think they're due to come back to earth a little bit, and I'm going to take the Cardinals. San Francisco and New England. I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this against my better judgment. If you don't have to pick this game, don't do it. San Francisco at home. They have to cover 10.5 against New England. After what happened to them, I mean, I bet that they're due to win a game by 14 points or more. But when I see a double-digit spread right now, considering after what happened to San Francisco against the Rams and that comeback that shouldn't have happened, I'm going to take the Patriots and see if they can keep it within that 10.5. I'm taking the 10.5 points. Vegas and Cleveland. Vegas at home. Vegas just coming off of a loss of the Carolina Panthers. So this is why I'm not quite sure why the spread is where it is, but I needed to make sure I would go back down and check. So in my Monday spread, it is Cleveland getting 1.5 points on the road. Right now, the line says 2.5 Cleveland favored, having to cover. I'm getting a 1.5 to take Cleveland. I'm taking the Cleveland Browns. Kansas City on the road. The Chargers get 8.5 points. Kansas City, you know what? And I'm going to contradict myself here. I don't really trust them right now to cover any spreads that are somewhat big. But can they do it just once? And if Justin Herbert's questionable and they go to Easton Stick, whether or not they do, Kansas City's got to win a game at some point, right, where they can win by 10 or more. I don't think they will this week, but I'll still take the Chiefs. Buffalo and Baltimore. Buffalo, they played so well this year. They're coming off a pretty much beating delivering on the Monday night, and they're getting 2.5 points on the road against Baltimore. Baltimore, I'm not sure what they are right now in Jekyll and Hyde. And when I look at Buffalo, I'm just going to look at this NFL standings and put this back just a second. Looking at the Bills, 112 points in their offense this year, only giving up 48. And when I look at the Ravens, they're 1-2, 78 points against, only 71 scored, and Buffalo has a pretty good defense. I know these are two juggernaut teams on paper, but the Bills are playing too well right now, and I'm getting points. I'm taking the Bills. Tennessee and Miami. I don't trust either one of these teams, to be honest with you. Miami just 1-2. Flip back on the other side of the conference here for Tennessee, and I see that, let's look at the spread one more time just to make sure nothing else moves. Right now, Miami is favored 2.5, and on my line, Miami gets 1.5. So I'm taking the Dolphins. Right now, Huntley is under center with Achane Hill and Waddle, and I still think those weapons are better. I know Will Levis could be a good quarterback someday, but Dolphins, they need to get to 500. Titans, their season might be ending pretty quickly here. So again, Miami favored 2.5, and I get 1.5 on the Monday line to take the Dolphins. So I'm taking the Dolphins. And this leads me to the Monday night game. It's the hometown Leos Monday night in the black alternate unis that they haven't worn in a while against the all-white Seattle Seahawks. I have not forgotten the ass beating the Seattle Seahawks delivered to the Detroit Lions last year with Geno Smith. I mean, they lost by, what was it, 24 plus? And Seattle's had Detroit's number. It's time for that Applebee's shift manager to turn some things around if you see those commercials with Dan Campbell. I should pick the Lions because I figured they got to figure it out at some point, but Seattle is 3-0 in the season. And despite maybe a couple games in between the Patriots that were close, or maybe I think that they should have played better, maybe a little bit against the Denver Broncos, they absolutely slapped the Dolphins. I know it was Skylar Thompson last week, but Seattle is getting 4.5 points. That's too many points. I got to take the Seahawks. Whether or not the Lions win, that would be good for them. I think more people, and again, I'm going to get slapped across the face for saying this because I've been picking against the Lions for what, 3 out of 4 weeks, and going 2-1 still, so I'll take it. But 3 out of 4 weeks picking against the Leos, but that's too many points right now, and I still have a bitter taste in my mouth from last year from the Hawks. So give me the Seahawks, give me the points. If the Lions cover, that's fine. But you know what? I think everyone's going to be talking about the Tigers more than anything else because, holy hell, guys, the Detroit Tigers are in the playoffs. Again, you still got to figure out whether they play Houston or Baltimore, but that's going to start on Tuesday. Times are TBD right now, and you still have, with the hurricane situation for the Braves and the Mets, that might decide who gets in the postseason there in the wild card. So unless that's already decided on Sunday, they won't even have to play that doubleheader, but I still think that's going on. So Tigers are going to be on the road regardless on theirs, and I'll have the call Tuesday and Wednesday for sure. Thursday will be TBD as it's best of 3. I do want to just end with one thing really quickly before we close out these picks into the video. So WRIF Fest 2024. Again, I didn't see any of the ground bands. I went to the main stage because we got there about 4:30 Eastern as the main stage opened at 5. So your lineup, and I have to really say this honestly, guys, Sleep Theory was the first band out of Memphis, Tennessee that joined in at the Pine Knob Music Theater, and holy cow, are they good. If you're looking for something on your Spotify playlist, type in Sleep Theory, check out some of their songs in their playlist. There's about 5 good ones that they've already dropped over the album release last year that they had. They were excellent. With the other bands, Wage War and Asking Alexandria, if I could speak, because it's 2:30 in the morning. In the sense for those two, and I will blame Wage War for this. I wasn't familiar with a lot of their catalog, but when you're working at Pine Knob, again, not all of the other bands are bringing their own amps, receivers, all of that. They're plugged into the main hubs. They jacked up the sound way too much. All you could feel was like the bass just knocking you back. I'm not even kidding. It just boom, boom of the bass completely wipes out the vocals. Magnetic is a good song from Wage War, but everything else, I would say hard pass even for me. I like rock, I like mix of a little bit of, screaming and all that too, but when it's all of that and you can't hear any of the vocals and it's just overpowering, Again, if you would have changed some of the sound dynamics and the mixing, it would have been better. But Wage War, I wasn't my cup of tea. And then Asking Alexandria, I think the lead singer, from what I've heard, especially from my cousin that was there today with his fiance in the mix, was, you know what, vocal cords got blown out a little bit too much from screaming, and over the years it doesn't have the same effectiveness. And then the final two bands to close, Seether I love. They're absolutely excellent, but Seether had the same problem in between Wage War and Asking Alexandria, that the receivers and sounds and the mixing was way too blown out, so you couldn't hear Sean Morgan's vocals as well as you wanted to. And again, they only had about 7 or 8 songs because Godsmack was the main band. Again, Solierna, very excellent. They were able to actually fix all of their own stuff and sound excellent when Seether didn't have the time. That was the unfortunate part of it that I wish could have changed, because here's the deal. When you're talking about, I think this was 2019 or 2020, either before COVID, and the first Riff Fest that I went to, the main stage lineup was Wilson, Badflower, Pop Evil, Seether, and Shinedown. I mean, you cannot do better if you're a rock fan as far as that list. So to be able to see Seether again, I was very excited, but I just know that the sound mixing messed it up more than their vocals, because they're very good. They put on a good performance, but Wage War, man, they turned that up way too loud, and it messed it up for the rest of the bands, except for Godsmack and Sleep Theory, who went on first, who are absolutely excellent. Again, if you need a new band recommendation, that's exactly where you should go. Sleep Theory, no doubt about that. Also, one last thing before I check out on these picks, I did release with the help of the group, Waterford Sharks. Again, their season's going to start. Let me click on this calendar here on the computer. So we're looking at 3 Saturdays from now. So on the 19th will be the Sharks home opener. That'll be their banner night. And on the 5th will be a charity game for cancer. I'm going to go ahead and make a donation and show up. I'm not going to have to do any play-by-play during that time, but I want to show up and kind of see how the team is looking or who they're going to bring in before they start on the 19th. So my schedule for the week, for sure, Monday will be prep. Tomorrow is going to be a rest day because the ears are still ringing. I'm going to get the voice recovery. Hopefully I don't end up getting RSV or anything else. I don't feel like I have that coming on with the voice, and I could taste all my food when we got stuff coming home. So should feel good. So prep Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday will be Tigers games 1 and 2 in the wild card. Thursday will be TBD. Friday will be rest. Maybe NHL 25 pickup, and Saturday I'll be at the charity game for cancer against Fraser and the Waterford Sharks before the season officially kicks off on the 19th. And I think if I have this correctly, next week should be the kickoff or the puck drop of the NHL regular season. So I'll have to make sure I get in contact with Alec Nava and Mr. Cooper Hopkins as far as doing anything Flames and Canucks related in their opener. But as far as our trip and everything else for November, that is locked in. I know I've been talking about that over the last couple, but that's locked in now. So I'll have much more to share when we get closer into it, especially next week when I talk to the boys and get everything squared away for the NHL schedule. Guys, puck drops upon us. We're going to be getting into the MLB playoffs going into next week. And we also have, some trips coming up, some good stuff. I'm going to be pretty busy and get back into the Waterford Sharks season. I'm a happy guy, and I can't really complain. I can't wait to work back with the team and enjoy shooting the Braves and talking with them as well. It's been far too long for Alec Nava and Cooper Hopkins himself to all work together. I know we'll get some of those games. I'm sure Cooper and I are going to mix in some Flames games. Alec and I will have the opener for the Florida Panthers, no doubt about that. Whether he'll host and have some video, I'll still have the YouTube side. It's going to be a lot of fun on the channel, and I hope as well these picks turn out to be a hit, because I'm sitting at 500 at 22 and 22, and it's time to bust over that mark. Talk to you guys on Tuesday. Peace.